In this video, we're going to see how we can export our project from Cakewalk by Bandlab for various different purposes. Here is the project that we started developing from episode 6 of this tutorial series, and I'm going to show you how we can export it for various different purposes. But before that, let me introduce you to a problem that you might face. If I hit Ctrl A on the keyboard, then everything gets selected. This includes the tracks and the duration of the track. And you can clearly see that the end of the project is at around 4 minutes 38 seconds. But in actuality, the project ends around 3 minutes. So we have an additional silence of around 1.5 minutes. Now this happens because there is some kind of data in here that we are not seeing at the moment. Now here, if I reveal the automation lane on this track, you can see here is a node, and I added this to show you what gets selected. So if I hit Ctrl A, you can see this node is making Cakewalk think that this is the end of the project. So in order to avoid this kind of rendering unwanted silence, you can change this selection and make sure you only render what you actually need to render. So since that's over, I'm going to delete this node now. I'm going to press Ctrl A again. Now as you can see, the selection is ending at the right place. Oh, and by the way, we might want to select one of the tracks before hitting Ctrl A. This will make sure that all of the tracks will be selected. Now let's export this project the simple way. You see this project and selection? Well, this is part of the whole export module. If you don't see this the way you are seeing in this video, then it's probably because you have a different workspace selected here. Right now, I'm using the basic workspace. So this is how the export module looks in mine. Just so you know, we can right click around its side like this to reveal its menu, and then if you want, you can resize the module. See? Export. By default, what's going to get exported will be the entire project, and since we are going for the selection only, we have to switch it here. Then we can click on export, then audio, which will reveal the formats into which we can export this project into. Now the most widely used and accepted audio format that has the highest quality is WAV, so I'm going to select that, which is going to bring up this window. Let me give the song name and then choose the folder location where I want to save it, and then is the most important thing, and that is to match these sample rate and bit depth values to that in the project. So here is 44.1 kilohertz and 24 bit, which is equal to 4400 hertz and 24. Now we are ready, and as you can see now, the project is being exported. The time it takes to export will depend on the overall duration of the project. So I'm going to fast forward, and it's done. Now let's have a look at the exported file. Here it is. Yep, it's here. But let's just say we want to share this file in a certain someone's Discord server to get some feedback from its members. But if I drag it in, you can see that the file size is too large, and the maximum file size it permits is 8 megabytes. But this file is around 48 megabytes. So these are the times when we can use the file format MP3. And it brings up the window that is pretty much the same as before, but this time we cannot change the bit depth value from 16. And if I click save, we will get this window specific for exporting MP3. I usually make this quality better. The bitrate is one of the values that can affect the size of an MP3. If the exported MP3 is not below your size requirement, then this is where you can reduce it. I usually go with 320 because that has the maximum quality in MP3. Let me export. Now MP3 is a lossy format, which means there's a lot of compression and a lot of data will be gone. So you should only consider exporting into an MP3 if having a smaller file is more important than having a file with the best quality. Alright, it's done. So here is the MP3 file. And this MP3 file is 7.26 MB, which can be shared in the Discord server. Now that's it with the simple exports. Now let's get into exporting the advanced way. Let's say we want to give this project to someone who can really do a good job of mixing, probably a mix engineer, or to someone who is collaborating with us on this particular project. For a mix engineer, we will probably have to give the output of these individual tracks as separate audio files. Anyway, the separate files will be created with the audio from the respective outputs of these individual tracks. That is, no more processing will be done on that audio. But in case of the collaboration, we might need to include the bus processing. Let me show you an example. If I solo this hi-hat, You can see a little bit of reverb is coming from this bus. Of course, it's happening because of the effects in the bus tracks. Anyway, the point is, a mix engineer might not need this bus processing, but a co-producer might. So let's see how we can handle both these situations. I'm gonna select the whole thing, and this time we don't want to change the starting point of the time duration. And then we make sure we are exporting the selection and then click on export, go to advanced, or we can go to file, hover over export, then click audio. So now we have the export window. Let's collapse all these sections to make it look clean. First we have the file name and location. We'll come back to that in a bit. Then we have format. Of course, I want to export in WAV format with sample rate 4400 Hz and bit depth 24-bit, which are the same as in the project. And then what to export. The source category that we want is tracks. So if I select that, we get to see all the tracks which will get exported. One of the tracks is something that I don't want. Yeah, I don't want to export this track. So I'm going to uncheck that. Now we can change the file name. We want each of the outputs to have the respective names of their tracks. So let's change this tag. You don't need to know all the tags by heart. You can just click here to reveal all the tags that we can use. And then we can choose the track name. So now we can see the name of the first track. And now let's choose the location where we will be exporting it. Now this location is an audio export folder under the project folder. So I would like to change this to desktop. I'm gonna make a new folder, song tracks, then select folder. After what to export, we can choose the mix and render options. Of course, the bus effects will not be available now. And then if we enable the 64-bit engine, Cakewalk will be able to take full advantage of the 64-bit plugins, making the exports faster. And finally, in range, we already have the time selected. Now we can simply click export and the tracks will be created. But let's add this as a task. Now it's saying all these multiple files will be created. So we're gonna click OK. I'm gonna rename that. So this will be the tracks that we will be giving to the mix engineer. Now let's look into the collaborator. I'm gonna keep this mix and render open, and then we go to what to export. Now at the moment, the bus processing is unavailable, but when I change these tracks to tracks through entire mix, they become available, and that's what we need. Let me deselect that guitar track that we deselected before. And if for some reason you want to not include some specific bus tracks, then you can click here and then mute them here. Alright? And then we are going to add another folder and we're going to select that folder. That is it. Everything else is the same. Now we are going to add this to the queue. Okay, it's added now. Now all we have to do is run tasks. The first task actually got completed in under 2 minutes, but the second task took about more than an hour. This is because in the first task, individual tracks can be exported into their respective audio files all in one go. It cannot be done like that in the second task where bus processing is included. Each track will be exported into their respective audio files one by one. It is done now. Now let's see the exported files. So here is the first task, and in here we can see the individual audio files, aka the track outs. So if I open the hi-hat closed, there isn't any reverb effect from the bus. But if we go to the second task and open the hi-hat closed, yep, there is a reverb from the bus track. I forgot to mention how we can send these files to the other person. So here is what you can do. We select all of these, then compress them into a zip file. For that you can use any application. I'm using WinRAR application. So now the zip file is created. Here is a good practice that you may want to follow. Rename your file the appropriate way. Here I'm going to have it named after the song, underscore, the scale, underscore, the tempo. It's totally fine if you don't give the scale while you're giving this file to your mix engineer. However, when you're giving it to your collaborator, it's really good to have the scale of the song. In both the cases, there should be BPM in this file. Anyway, the one who receives this file can extract it to get all these audio files back and then drag it into their own DAW. And they will have our project loaded. Alright, there is one more thing that we can export from a DAW for other producers. It's called stems and we usually see it in remix contests and all. So what exactly are these stems? You see all these reddish tracks in here? They all output a percussion sound like kick, rimshot, snare, clap, hi-hat, and so on. And these tracks are all directed to this single drums bus. And if I were to export the audio coming through this single bus, then we will get the stems for the drums in this project. Likewise, there is also this guitar bus, and if I were to export its audio, it will make the guitar stems. Even though buses are not the only way to export stems, if I were to make a project with an intention of exporting stems for the project, I would have added a lot many more bus tracks for that purpose. Now let's see how we can export stems. So the duration is selected, we have the selection checked here, and then we go to export, advanced, and then in here we're going to change the folder location. And then all we have to do is change the source category under what to export to buses, and here we can see all the buses. Now I'm gonna deselect all the buses that I don't want to export. It's all done. Now everything else is the same as before, so now I can simply click export. And that's giving us a dialog saying if we wish to proceed creating these two audio files. We click OK. Now we wait for it to complete exporting. Alright, it's done now. So let's check them out. Here we have the drum stems. Then we have the guitar. Nice. Now finally, let's see how we should export our project for distribution purposes. But before that, we need to master the song. Since mastering is a topic that is beyond the scope of this video, I will link another video on that topic down in the description. So I've completed mastering the song off screen. The kind of export that we are going to do will be done a lot of times in the future. So I would like to make an export preset for that. For that, I need to set some things up. So I'm going to open up the Cakewalk browser, then switch to the Notes tab. Then I'm going to give the name of the song in here. I'm doing this because I usually come up with random names for the project that has no connection with the song name. It's only later that I decide a name for the song, and it's here. Now if I click here, we can in fact add the key signature, but we cannot mention if it's major or minor. I would also like to add that information along with the name. There. Alright, we have set up what we need to. Now we need to open up the export window. Before that, let's select what to export. And this time, we don't need the silence in the beginning of the project. Alright, now we are going to switch to selection, hit export, advanced. Now, as you can see in the file name, it's the name of the project. And this isn't what I want. So let's delete this and go to tags. Under project notes and information, we're going to choose name. And it's replaced with what we typed before. Now let's add some more information. I want the BPM. So here is the tempo. And then finally, I need the date of the export. However, I don't need any of these because they have hyphen and I don't want that kind of characters in my export. So we're going to click here and make our own. Day, month, year. Insert. Done. We have this. That's all I need. If you want, you can also add the sample rate and bits. Personally, I don't need it. So that's it. Then in format, it's 4400, 24-bit, all those stuff is the same thing. I don't need to change this. Then in what to export, entire mix, yeah, the whole song, that's right. Then in mix and render, we need everything to be enabled, including the 64-bit engine. And then in range, we have time selection. That is all. We can now make a preset for this. Alright, so we have a preset now, and I'm gonna add that. Done. Now anytime I need to export as a 24-bit 4400 wave, I can just click here and select this preset and all the settings will be applied here. Just so you know, this folder location is actually not part of the export. So I'm going to specify a folder. We are almost ready to export, except that I want to export in 16-bit. Now, I personally use DistroKit to distribute my music, and in their help center it says pretty much anything works about the file format. But 16-bit 44.1 kHz wave is still the typical format. And I'm going to follow that because the majority of the end consumers listen to music in 16-bit, and I would prefer to be the one in charge of the conversion rather than any automated system that may or may not give good results. Because our project is in 24-bit and we are exporting it into a lower resolution, we have to apply tethering to avoid introducing any kind of artifacts. Cakewalk provides quite a number of mathematical calculations to generate tether, and on paper they are said to sound a little bit different from each other, but my ear hasn't picked up any kind of difference like that. But I do want to try each of them. I'm gonna select the first one and then rename here, then add it into task queue. Then I'm gonna select the second one and rename, add that too into the queue, and likewise I'm gonna select the remaining 3. Alright, now I'm just going to run the tasks. It's gonna take some time, and once that's done, we can listen to all those exports. To be honest, I don't think I'll be able to pick up any kind of difference between these files. This is just a means to make sure that I do not upload a file that has any kind of problem. I'll just listen to all of them and pick one that has no issue. And that's it for this video. Leave a like if you found it useful. From here onwards, I'll be switching back and forth between production videos and tutorial videos. And with that, this is ADK and I'll catch you later.